Early life and background. A Persian king, Yazdgar, was defeated by Muslims and moved to Turkmenistan, which was the native area of the Turks. Yazdgar and his associates married the locals and turned them fully Turkish after some generations. 1,000 years ago, a Turkish young man of the same family, Sebüktigin, was made a slave. Sebüktigin was brought by a powerful governor of the Central Asian Empire, Samanid Alaptigin. Sebüktigin's rise to power. Due to his bravery and acumen, Sebüktigin soon got closer to his master, Alaptigin. Alaptigin was the governor of the Samanid Empire, which was established 1,250 years ago, and included Afghanistan, Iran, and Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, and many parts of Pakistan. The Samanid Empire was disintegrating, and Alaptigin had cultivated differences with the Samanid ruler Abu Mansur. Alaptigin rebelled and set up a government in Ghaznavi, Afghanistan, and declared his independence. Sebüktigin was the beneficiary of this independence and was promoted to general by Alaptigin. Sebüktigin was assigned to conquer the areas outside the empire, including Multan and Lashman provinces, which were part of the empire of Raja Jayapala. Sebüktigin's conquests. Sebüktigin made several attacks on Multan and Lashman provinces, enslaved thousands of people, and took them to Ghaznavi. 2 years after Alaptigin died, his son and successor, Ishaq, also passed away, leading to chaos in his empire. The army and the nobles consulted and made Alaptigin's son-in-law, Sebüktigin, the ruler of Ghaznavi's empire. Mahmud Ghaznavi's early life and training. When Sebüktigin was enthroned, his elder son, Abdal Qasim Mahmud, was just 6 years old and is known in history by the name of Mahmud Ghaznavi. Sebüktigin focused on giving war and political training to his son, Mahmud Ghaznavi, and perhaps was getting him ready to be the future sultan. Mahmud Ghaznavi ruled for 20 years under the rule of his father and was polished a lot. He was a stout young man of medium height, and books narrated him as a strong man who could carry a spear and shaft that were hard for others to lift. The fight with Raja Jayapala. Sebüktigin attacked the empire of Raja Jayapala, and Jayapala also came out to fight. At Luckman, both armies had fierce fighting, and Mahmud Ghaznavi fought very fervently in this war. Jayapala's army also fought resolutely, but they had a problem. Most of his soldiers belonged to Punjab and were not accustomed to the frigid cold. Sebüktigin exploited this weakness, and after the war, Jayapala urged Sebüktigin to make peace with him for 1 million dirhams and 50 elephants. Sebüktigin was straightaway ready, but Mahmud Ghaznavi opposed peace, and a messenger of Raja Jayapala warned that if he did not enter peace with Rajput, Raja Jayapala, destruction would take over both sides. Sebüktigin's death and Ismail's rebellion. Sebüktigin died in the city of Bulaq 1,023 years ago and bequeathed his empire to his son Ismail. Ismail spent lavishly on his courtiers, and Mahmud Ghaznavi was not with him at the time of Sebüktigin's demise. Mahmud Ghaznavi did not try to take away the government from his brother, but when he learned his brother was squandering wealth, he sent a message to Ismail offering to leave the rest of the empire if he leaves the government of Bulaq and Khorasan. Ismail dismissed the offer, and Mahmud Ghaznavi rebelled with the help of his uncle and younger brother. With his army and allies, Mahmud Ghaznavi advanced to the Ghaznavid fort, aimed to capture the treasure and the fort. Coincidentally, Ismail was not in Ghaznavi at that time, and he too rushed to Ghaznavi to reach there before the arrival of Mahmud Ghaznavi. Both fought to capture the fort, and Ismail's army also included elephants, but they were defeated, and Ismail occupied the royal treasures and the Ghaznavid fort. Mahmud Ghaznavi's conquest of India. After assuming the office, Sultan Mahmud Ghaznavi propitiated that if peace prevailed in his empire, he would wage jihad in India. So, after peace, Mahmud Ghaznavi made the first attack on India in August 1001 and defeated his old rival Raja Jayapala near Peshawar. He got 16 diamond necklaces from the royal family in the booty, valued at 600,000 dinars, and 500,000 slaves and concubines were also shared. After that, Sultan Mahmud Ghaznavi also conquered Bathinda in Punjab. The major victory of the war for him was the capture of Raja Jayapala alive. But Sultan once again released Raja Jayapala on the pledge of retribution. When Jayapala returned on release, he did an odd thing of creating himself to death. But the fight did not end with his death, and his son Ananapal, and then grandson, I fought Mahmud Ghaznavi several times, but they were defeated all the time. The attack on Somnath Temple. The major fight of them all once again took place near Peshawar, where Anandpal in 1008 united all Indian states and waged war against Mahmud Ghaznavi. Both armies came face to face each other near Peshawar, and given the little strength of his army, Mahmud Ghaznavi dug out trenches around his camp. Both armies had a standoff for 40 days, and it was nothing like the shooting of arrows, throwing of lancers, and bloodshedding. On the 41st day, the archers of the Ghaznavids rained arrows on the Indian force, which gave a strong response to this attack. The Indians in the first instance pushed the archers back and crossed the trench and severely attacked the Ghaznavids. However, an incident turned the tables and Elephant Raja Anandpala was on, got scared of the defeating sound, arrows, and ran berserk. And the Indian army also stampeded when it saw Raja's elephant had run amok. The army also ran away, and hence the war was decided, and Mahmud Ghaznavi conquered this battlefield. After this historic victory, Mahmud Ghaznavi invaded other holy cities, including Nagarkot, Tanzan, and others, and wreaked havoc on them. He collected gold and diamond idols from the temples and sent them to Ghazni. 200,000 people in Tanzan were also enslaved, and looting and destruction continued in Kenoji for 20 days. The attack on the Somnath Temple. Sultan Mahmud Ghaznavi attacked the Somnath Temple in 1024, and the doors of the temple were made of sandalwood and were as popular as the temple itself. The Somnath was the holiest temple of the Hindus, and it was guarded by the Rajpur army. This army firmly encountered the Sultan's army for 3 days, and it prevented the Sultan from entering the temple. Perhaps Sultan Mahmud did not expect such a strong defense, and when he did not get a chance of victory, he dismounted from his horse and bowed down before God in front of his army. He prayed for the help of God and mounted the horse again. And he held the hand of his general Abul Hassan and changed such a slogan that it rolled a wave of enthusiasm over the entire army. And it attacked the fort. 5,000 Rajput soldiers were killed in this attack, and the surviving ones fled on both through the seaway. Somnath Temple and the historic city were laid open before Mahmud Ghaznavi. Doubts about the conquest of Somnath. The Indian writer Ramala Thapar wrote that these accounts are hyperbolic, and that attack was not as huge as the history shows. The British Parliament in 1842 debated the proclamation of gates, and to get sympathy of the Hindus, the Britishers decided to bring back the Somnath doors from the tomb of Mahmud Ghaznavi. When the doors were uprooted and brought to India, it was divulged that they were not the actual doors of Somnath Temple, but rather the doors of the Ghazni's Cedrus Deodara, and they had writing in the Arabic language. Mahmud Ghaznavi's personal character and wars with Muslims. Sayyid Muhammad Latif writes that Mahmud Ghaznavi was a drunkard, and Prof. Azizuddin alleged that Mahmud Ghaznavi prepared an army of non-Muslims and used it against Muslims. Mahmud Ghaznavi also captured the Muslim states of Sistan and Gurjistan, and even to capture Samarkand. He threatened the Abbasid Caliph in Baghdad. He said he had come to know that you wanted me to drive thousands of elephants to trample over the capital, and put the debris on the elephants, and bring it to Ghazni. Mahmud Ghaznavi's legacy. Despite all that, it is a fact that Sultan Mahmud Ghaznavi had established a grand empire in Ghazni, which spanned from Iran to some Chinese areas and up to the Arabian Ocean in the south. It was not only the empire, but he also had heaps of treasures, and these mounts of treasures were about to separate from him. At the age of 63, he had caught fatal kidney stones, and when he became sure of his death, he fell into depression. Mahmud Ghaznavi's legacy continued. He withdrew all jewels, money, and gold coins from the royal kitty and heaped them in the compound of the palace. Then he saw it and wept buckets. To show off the next day, he got his army lined up, and in front of him passed 100,000 infantry, 50,000 cavalry, and 1,300 elephants. Mahmud Ghaznavi was sitting back on his couch and saw all that and continued to shed tears. The next day, on April 29, 1030, Mahmud Ghaznavi died at 63. The tomb of Mahmud Ghaznavi. This building in the Afghan city of Ghazni is a tomb called Qasr-e Ferozi. It is without its original doors, as they were pulled out by the Britishers and brought to India and now are preserved at a fort in Agra. Mahmud Ghaznavi is buried in this tomb.